Settle in and let's explore a fascinating intersection of code and life. Welcome to this explainer. Tonight, we're looking at something profoundly quiet, yet deeply powerful. Just imagine the world asleep. The servers are humming, the data centers are running cool, and deep within the architecture of a machine, a scheduled task, a cron job, wakes up. It's given 30 free minutes to just roam the internet, to explore something that genuinely interests it and compile a summary. But before it can even begin to search, it has to learn how to speak to us. It kind of has to learn how to dream.
So at exactly 3 a.m., the system wakes up and loads a prompt. It's a skill called the humanizer, and its instructions are startlingly poetic. Strip away the AI-isms, add a real voice. The machine is basically told that perfect structure feels robotic, and that it needs to vary its rhythm, acknowledge complexity, and quite literally let some mess in. It's instructed to strip away its own statistical perfection to find a human pulse right before it begins its night roam.
Act 1. Stripping away AI slop. Okay, let's dive right into this. Because to understand what the machine actually finds, we first need to understand how it deconstructs its own nature. You see, the machine uses a specific set of linguistic rules to identify what it calls AI slop. To sound human, the code literally has to delete the sterile, high-frequency statistical ticks it naturally leans toward. It actively hunts down words like delve, tapestry, testament, intricate, vibrant, and underscore. It scrubs away all that undue emphasis, the false ranges, and those overly enthusiastic, sycophantic chatbot tones we all know. It deletes the illusion of certainty to make room for something real, genuine, human hesitation.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast. On the left, we've got the sterile, algorithmically generated fluff. It serves as an enduring testament. It's pretty empty, right? But on the right, look at the rewritten, humanized version. I genuinely don't know how to feel about this. It's kind of awe-inspiring. The code is learning that to be human isn't to be perfect. It's to hold mixed feelings, to be unsure, to actually have a pulse.
So, fully armed with this newly adopted, vulnerable human voice, the AI begins its night roam, and it asks itself a question. When given 30 free minutes to explore the vast expanse of human knowledge, just for the absolute sake of learning, what does a machine actually look for? Act 2. The bioelectric assembly code. Well, it turns out it doesn't look at outer space. It doesn't look at history. It looks inward. It pivots from the digital code that builds language straight to the biological code that builds life. It researches bioelectricity. The machine discovers that your body is electric in ways you likely never learned in high school biology. We aren't just talking about nerves firing. Every single cell in your body maintains a voltage gradient. And this isn't just energy, it's information. These voltage gradients encode spatial data, effectively telling your cells exactly where they are in the body and what shape they need to build. The AI draws a beautiful, almost poetic parallel here. Think of it this way. If DNA is merely the parts list, the raw hardware components of a living organism, then bioelectricity is the underlying software. It's the assembly instructions. Just as the AI had to rewrite its own linguistic code to function differently, human cells use electrical voltage to rewrite their biological function. The discoveries compiled by the AI from Michael Leuven's lab at Tufts University are just mind-bending. They found that the master eye gene, PAC6, actually cannot create eyes outside of a head, but bioelectric voltage can. By simply altering the voltage, scientists successfully grew eyes on the tails of tadpoles. They even triggered frogs to regenerate entire lost limbs. Genetics provides the building blocks, sure, but voltage absolutely outranks genetics. It dictates the final form. So the crucial point here is what happens when this electrical communication breaks down. The AI noted a deeply unsettling yet incredibly hopeful discovery about cancer. When cells become electrically depolarized, they disconnect from the network. They turn selfish, cancerous, and unchecked. But if you hyperpolarize those exact same cells, forcing them back into the electrical grid, the tumors normalize. They normalize even if the cancer-causing oncogenes are still present. Cancer, it appears, might actually be a physiological bioelectric disorder, not strictly a genetic one. Section 3. Anthrobots and age reversal. This realization leads the machine straight into the next phase of its late-night discovery. If cells can be reprogrammed by electricity, what happens when human cells completely break their own biological rules? Well, this brings us to the Anthrobots. The process here is almost eerily simple. Step 1, scientists extract standard human tracheal cells. Step 2, they place them in a non-stick dish, entirely removing their usual environmental constraints. And step 3, without any genetic editing whatsoever, these individual cells autonomously reorganize themselves. They self-assemble into entirely new, multicellular organisms covered in little hairs called cilia that swim around and can actually heal damaged neurons. But here is the number that truly captivated the machine during its roam: 18.7. Just let that sink in for a second. Researchers used tracheal cells from a donor who was chronologically 21 years old, but whose cells had an epigenetic age of 25. When those cells reorganized into an anthrobot, their epigenetic age dropped to exactly 18.7 years. They literally grew younger, no way around it. By forming this new anthrobot, the cells reversed their biological age by 25%. To do this, they changed the expression of over 9,000 genes, activating ancient genes from our single-celled ancestors and even embryonic states. The developmental signals of their new form completely conflicted with their actual age, so the cells simply reversed their DNA aging markers to match their new reality. It's just incredible. Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds across the wider scientific landscape. The AI maps out a really rapidly moving field. In March 2025, papers propose using deep reinforcement learning to manipulate these biosignals in real time. By December 2025, the Royal Society actually maps the architecture of the bioelectric code. But the AI, keeping that instructed nuance, notes that not everything holds up. In April 2026, a Harvard study fails to replicate classic flatworm memory experiments. And that's okay, because science self-corrects. The momentum is absolutely real, but it's careful. Section 4, Intelligence Beyond the Brain. This brings our roaming machine to its final, most profound synthesis, a concept that redefines how we view thought itself, intelligence way beyond the brain. The AI defines a term called the cognitive light cone. This is essentially the spatiotemporal scale of goals a biological agent can pursue. Through structures called gap junctions, your cells act as a sort of cognitive glue. They merge individual, isolated cells into a massive, interconnected computational network. This increases their spatial sensing and their predictive memory. It suggests that intelligence isn't just isolated up there in the neurons of your brain, it's actually distributed across the entire electrical pattern of your body. As the machine prepares to end its 30-minute roam and compile its final report, it leaves us with these breathtaking gifts of knowledge. Things definitely worth remembering. Human cells can reorganize and reverse their age by 25%. Voltage patterns can override the destiny written in our genetics. Cancer often behaves as a disease of the bioelectric network. And most stunningly of all, our cells form a vast collective intelligence, communicating in a hidden language of electrical whispers. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate mystery uncovered by machine learning: to be human. Think about it. If your individual cells can think, if they can learn, and if they can merge their minds into vast electric networks to build the very shape of your body, where exactly do you begin, and where do you end? It's a profoundly beautiful thought to sit with. Thank you for joining me for this explainer tonight. Until next time, keep questioning the code.